Good morning, folks. My name's Ken Doucette. I'm the Director of Community Affairs from Middlesex Sheriff's Office. On behalf of Sheriff Katujian, he wants to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And most importantly, we want to make sure you have a safe holiday. And that's why we're here today, to talk about scams and to keep you safe and raise your awareness during the holiday season. So not only have you folks been preparing, but I can guarantee you the scammers have been preparing also. They've been taking advantage of technology. They're using artificial intelligence. And since when I was here last 6 months ago, they have upped their game. They're getting much better at taking advantage of you folks. So today what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk to you just briefly about the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. You folks all know the great work that Marlborough Police Department do and their work in the community, but people don't know what we do at the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. So I'm going to talk just briefly about that. I'll talk about our community programs, which this is one of them right here. Just so you're aware, this presentation, when we offer this to the local council on aging and senior centers, we've booked 25 of these. I'm doing 2 today. I did 2 yesterday. We're literally traveling the whole county with these presentations. We're going to talk about scam awareness during the holiday season because you're going to be inundated with emails, text, phone calls, especially to your generation, and then also possibly people knocking at your door. So you want to be aware of that. And then we'll have time for questions. And the other thing, too, we have a small group today, so you don't have to save your questions to the end. We can make this more of a conversation. So if you want to ask any questions, don't be afraid to raise your hand. So Sheriff Katujian, he joined us about 12, 13 years ago at the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. Prior to that, he was a state representative up on Beacon Hill. It's interesting because the work he did on Beacon Hill has translated now over to the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. His big focus was mental health and physical health. And a lot of that carries over to the programs that we have here for those that are incarcerated at the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. So Sheriff Katujian, a major focus for him is that we know of the programs, if we make them focused and specific to certain populations, and they're based on science and statistics, we can make it so that it's more successful for those that are incarcerated when they're released, and then make it better for their families as far as preparation and resources, and then we're making safer communities. So it's a great trickle-down effect. We all know that drug addiction and alcoholism is a major issue nowadays. So we have our medicated assisted treatment and direct opioid recovery program. And just so you're aware, when I talk about statistics, this program has gone through a couple revisions because they found that we can make the program even better. So that's a great example of a program where you look at the statistics, you look at the science, and we can help individuals out. In Massachusetts, the Middlesex Sheriff's Office is the only county that has a unit for military veterans. Is there anybody in here that's a veteran or a family of veterans at all? What branch, sir?
Navy.
Navy. Thank you for your service. Ma'am?
All branches.
All branches. Thank you. Yes, sir. Army. So my wife is Army. My dad was Air Force. My father-in-law was Navy. We're going to be at the Thanksgiving table this week, and I'm going to feel like I haven't done my part. So thank you all for your service. So Sheriff Katujian knew that military veterans had specific resources available to them to help them successful once they're released. So we have this Humvee program, and I'll share with you, sheriff's departments from all around the country come to check out this unit, and then they duplicate it, and they bring it back to their own states. So it's a tremendously successful program. The People Achieving Change Together. This is for males that are 24 years old or younger. Because men, I hate to break the news to you, at a younger age, our brains don't develop as quickly or mature as quickly as the females. And statistically, we make more bad decisions than the females. So this unit here, they set up for that age group. And it's interesting, when you look at the statewide average for those that, for the recidivism rate, which is when somebody gets arrested, they serve time, they get released, and then do they get reincarcerated. It's about 50% for that age group across the state. We have it down to about 20% plus or minus. So when you think about that, tremendous success, plus it saves a tremendous millions of dollars for taxpayers because we don't have to house these individuals. the Family Support Services Unit. You would think the sheriff had a crystal ball on this. They opened it 1 month before COVID. And the key to this was, of course, during COVID, people couldn't visit those that were incarcerated. And now this unit here was able to help those families setting up Zoom conferences, that type of thing. The last item mentioned there is the Women's Pre-Release Program. You would think it's only common sense that we would have had women housed with us so they could take advantage of the same programs. But it wasn't until 2021 that we actually started having females housed with us. Prior to that, they had been with the Department of Correction. So Sheriff Katujan felt it was not fair to the females that they weren't able to take advantage of these programs also that are so successful. So now the females are with us. And one that's not listed there, just a couple weeks ago, we opened a unit for males that are 60 years old and older. And again, because everything is so focused, it makes for better success rates, sets them up with their families for resources when they get out, and then decreases everybody's taxes. So it's a great science-based and statistic-based program. And because of that, Sheriff Katujan nationally this year got Sheriff of the Year. And then on top of that, there's all of our innovative programs for training our staff. That's another whole presentation I can come back and do another time. But there's some great programs to get our staff ready so that we can help those that are incarcerated with us. As I mentioned, my name's Ken Doucette. I've been with the Middlesex Sheriff's Office for 12 years. I'm a civilian. I am not an officer. I have not been through a basic training academy. I have great respect for our officers. In addition to this, I'm also a CPR instructor, first responder instructor. I do get to work a lot with our basic training academies at that we have. As a matter of fact, we have one graduating this Friday, number of new officers coming on. And then I help with the Women's Self-Defense Program and a number of other items. So up at the House of Correction, we have between 600 and 800 individuals that are incarcerated with us. We work a lot with local police departments, including Marlborough. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. And we have tons of community programs that we run. So a quick trivia question. You saw in one of the earlier slides that we are one of the oldest law enforcement agencies in the country. We can do a raise of hands. How many people think that the Middlesex Sheriff's Office was established in 1692? Raise your hands. None. 1776, the birth of our country. None there either. Okay, 1880. We got one in the back, a couple here. 1941. So actually, folks, this is going to shock you all. 1692. And because of that, we have a lot of experience, and the sheriff feels it's important that we share that experience with you folks. As far as community programs, we have a summer camp that we run, including here with Marlborough. Officer Keith Morrow comes up to the summer camp. He spends a week with us every summer. We do a number of presentations like this. And then we also have our community outreach team that helps with parades and touch the truck events and community events. In community affairs, we also, another program that I love is our Special Citizens Academy. And that's for individuals with cognitive disabilities that want to learn about law enforcement and the role of the sheriff's office. And I'll share with you Maggie right over here in the wheelchair, one of my favorite people. She's such a tremendous individual. She has some really serious physical disabilities, but she's great, real high energy. I love when she participates in our programs. Law enforcement and residents networking. This is what we're doing today. This program officially started in 2016 because Sheriff Katujan felt it was important that we get out and we talk about the scams with you folks. We do a lot of work in our local police departments, again, including Marlborough. We have a warrant apprehension, our special ops team, community affairs, and our outreach team like we're doing today. We also have, it's an interesting program, and this is another innovative approach Sheriff Katujan brought, our Safe Keep program. Let's say on Friday night in Marlborough, somebody makes a bad decision. In the past, those individuals, they would stay at the Marlborough Police Department for the weekend, and they'd get McDonald's or Burger King or whatever. Now, Marlborough Police can bring them up to us because we specialize in housing individuals. So when they're up with us over the weekend, we make sure they get mental health support. We make sure that they get physical support if they need it with any of our doctors or medical team. They get fed. And then, of course, our officers are trained specifically in overseeing individuals and keep them safe. So that safety program has been a great addition to the county. So now let's talk about scams. Here we are in the heart of the holiday season, and already I can share with you, last Friday night, I got a phone call. This was not on my cell phone. It was on my house line. It was from Rockland Trust. My bank happens to be Rockland Trust. So they made the call. I pick up the phone, and they said, is this Ken Doucette? My response to them, I didn't say yes, and this is key, folks. My response was, who is this? And I knew right away by their response they were not my bank. And then I said, what do you want? And then I really knew they weren't. And I said, click. So Sheriff Katuja talks about this all the time. This generation right here, you folks were brought up with manners. You were polite. You answer the door. You answer the phone. We are now sharing with you folks, if you don't recognize the number on the phone, don't answer it. If it's important, they'll leave a message, right? Or if it's somebody at the door, if you're not expecting somebody at your door, you should not be opening that door. You don't know who it is. We'll talk more about that. So the types of scams during the holiday season, you're going to get them, they're going to come in on your phone, and it could be a text. To this generation, it's phone calls. That's what, and again, scammers, they market just like professional marketers do. They look at the different people who in this particular age group you folks are targeted. It could also be that knock on the door, or it could be an email. So they come in all different aspects. You just want to be aware of the different way that they're going to approach you. Some common scams we'll talk about today. The arrest or the intimidation scam. Ma'am, you didn't pay your IRS bill, your tax bill, so you need to pay your bill. Or on the flip side, it was interesting, back in April, I was doing the presentation on scams. During the presentation, I got a text that said, it was from the IRS, by the way. They texted me personally. How awesome is that? So they said, Mr. Doucette, you have a refund. And if you simply click on the link, instead of sending you a check, we could do an automatic bank deposit for you. Just give us your routing number. So I see everybody's like, so you folks are all picking up. A definite scam, all right? But people fall for that, folks, which is why we're here today. The contractor or utility scam, I'll talk about it more in depth in a few minutes, but in Belmont recently, there was somebody that knocked on a door, and they said they were from the water department. The woman and they weren't. The woman let them into her basement, all right? She was okay, but again, if you don't know who's at your door and you're not expecting them, you should not be opening your door. The romance and trust scams. This, believe it or not, is really, really big with this generation. Everybody is looking for companionship, and it's understandable. We're all looking for a friend, just somebody to talk to, maybe somebody to have a cup of coffee with. But these scammers on the romance and the trust scams, they are getting senior citizens to believe that they're overseas, and then we'll get more in depth on it, and they'll get you to send a lot of money. So we want you to be aware of that. We'll get into depth on that. Social Security and IRS, and then technology scams, which we're going to see a lot of, and I have some examples of that for you. So now I have 2 slides on safety tips for you folks. So first of all, if anybody ever asks for your Social Security number or your bank account information, folks, it's a scam, all right? 99.9% chance it's a scam. Nobody should be asking for your bank account information or your Social Security information. If the IRS or law enforcement could be Marlborough Police, it could be the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. I have a recorded audio piece I'm going to play for you in a little bit of a scam in regard to that. If they threaten to arrest and demand payment of debt over the phone, it's a scam, folks, all right? So who can you trust? Nobody. There are some people that you can trust. In most cases, we can trust our family members, all right? But in addition to that, we have the Senior Center staff. We have a great working relationship with the Senior Center staff here in Marlborough, and I know for a fact that they want to help you. If you have a text or an email or even something that came in the mail to you and you're not sure of it, it's okay to bring it to them and say, hey, what do you think about that? Yesterday we were up in Littleton, and there was a woman that brought something she got in the mail. So I suggested for her to do two things. A, check with the local police department, but B, check with the senior center staff. So you have the staff here. In addition to that, I'll tell you right now, working with Officer Keith Morrow here at the Marlborough Police Department, he always says, Kenny, if somebody has a question, they should call us at the police department. And you can call the business line. You don't even have to call the emergency line. So don't be afraid to reach out to the police department. And also, folks, if you see somebody on your street knocking on doors and you're not sure it's legit, it's okay to call your local police department. They want to make sure the communities are safe. And sure, it could be the local person selling solar power for your roof, and they might be legit, but many times they're not. So we want to make sure that you're all safe. Other people you can trust is your doctor, especially when we're going to talk about online pharmacies. So you can talk to your doctor and they can help you. Also your bank. As I mentioned earlier, my bank in Waltham is Rockland Trust. They have a tremendous fraud department. I can go in there at any time with an email or a piece of mail, show it to them, and they'll be able to tell me if it's legitimate or not. So your bank is really, really key. Here in Marlborough, you probably have some local banks. Don't be afraid to go to the branch manager and say, hey, this is what I have. What do you think about this? Anytime you can slow the process down, have a couple sets of eyes, professional eyes, look at the text, the email, or the mail, that's always very helpful. If anybody has to be paid with a gift card, which you can buy in any store, just like this, if they ask to wire money, if they ask for cash, or especially if they ask for cryptocurrency, it's a scam, folks. And again, I'm glad to see some of you laughing because it's amazing. And when I talk about the romance scam in a few minutes, the woman in Brookline lost $900,000 because she put the money into cryptocurrency. So we'll talk about that. All right, so the do not list of scams is right here. Do not click on links, on emails, texts, or unfamiliar websites. And I'll give you an example. Several years ago, I went to go buy a Tom Brady shirt when he was still in town here. It was right around this time of year because they were doing they had those, the salute to veterans. And I wanted one of those green shirts. I went on what I thought was NFL.com. It turned out it wasn't. It was another company that was very close to the website for NFL.com that was actually over in China. I ended up getting the product and all that, but it was not what I expected. So you know, even educated people like myself, sometimes you may not pick up on how good these websites are. And we're going to talk about duplicated websites in a few moments. Do not respond to unsolicited emails, phone calls, or texts. So again, as I mentioned earlier, when that phone call comes in, I tell people, and Sheriff Petrucci tells his own mother, he'll say, Mom, if you don't recognize the number or the name, do not answer the phone. Again, if it's important, they're going to leave you a message. You do not need to answer the phone unless you recognize the number, as I just mentioned. Expect the call, and they'll leave you that message. Do not answer the door if you don't recognize the person. Again, you don't know if they have bad intentions, and you don't know who they are. So just be aware of that. And then the bottom one, do not pay a courier that's coming to collect the payment. Folks, that's a definite scam. No couriers are not coming out. And this is becoming very popular nowadays where they say, we're going to send the courier to pick up the cash or to pick up the money order or whatever it may be. So some national fraud statistics. I'm not going to get deep into this, but I think it's important to note that for the people over 60 years old in 2023, there was over 100,000 complaints lodged with the FBI. Now, that's just the FBI. That's not the local level like here at Marlborough Police Department or at the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. And in fact, we know that number is much higher because when people get scammed, they get embarrassed. And it's really sad. So they don't report it. So we know that number is much higher. And then as far as the money, the financial loss on that, $3.4 billion. That's billion with a B, not million, billion with a B. The most common scams were tech support, personal data breach, the confidence romance scam I mentioned, non-payment, non-delivery, which will be big this time of year during the holidays. We're going to go into depth on that. Investment, government, and the government impersonation. And just so you know, the fraud affects all ages. So it's not only you folks. Now, this slide here, I'm not going to go into great depth on it, but I will break it down really easy. for those that between 18 and 30. Most of their scams will be with websites, social media, texts, that type of thing. For this age group, and including, I'm 62, it's the telephone call. And again, what the scammers are counting on in that, we all know as we get older, our hearing starts to go, right? And they're counting on that. They also know that we tend to be a little bit more anxious as we get older. So they're counting on that when they make those phone calls to us. One more quick trivia question. So right now, just so you're aware, here is Marlborough down here. How many people do you think live in Middlesex County? 800,000, raise your hands. 1.25 million. None yet? 1.6 million. We got 2 million. We got a bunch. It's actually 1.6 million. And again, this points to, and this is where Sheriff Katujian looks at the numbers, he says we need to get this information out to individuals because we have so many people that are affected by these situations across the county. Now I'm going to get into specific scams that you'll be seeing, and we've seen them all year, but now we're seeing them, as I mentioned, up the game. Check washing. This is where, ma'am, you pay your utility bill, and what's that?
I go inside and pay.
That's perfect, yes. So on the check, how many of us still use checks here? I do. Anybody else? A bunch of us, yep. So what they'll do is they take your check, then you've made it out to Boston Electric or whatever it may be. And then you've made it out for $50 so you can cover your utility bill or whatever it may be. So they erase the name, and then they erase the 50, they'll make it into 500 something, and they'll make it out to themselves. The way they're getting these checks is because, and we've seen on the news recently, where people are assaulting the Postal Service employees, it's because they want that key. That key fits multiple mailboxes around the communities. So they know that at that point they can get in, they can get the mail, go through, pick out the checks, and other information, by the way. So that's how they get these checks. Some ways to make it harder for them, if you use the gel pens versus an ink pen, you can get them at CVS. That's a great way to protect yourself a little bit. And as you mentioned, ma'am, you take it right into the post office. But ultimately, you have to understand, yeah, we take it, we bring it to the post office, but at some point it's going to be brought into and put into a mailbox somewhere. I know even at my house, my mail's on the outside of my house. It's not, I remember when I was a kid, there used to be that latch in the door. But they don't make the doors like that anymore. So, and you know, it's a concern, including when they steal parcels off the porches. Government imposter scams. This is really, really big because when you look at law enforcement, courts, IRS, and all that, $179 million in losses in 2023. This is where they say there's a warrant for your arrest. This is weird, and this is done on a phone call, and where they're going to call you up and say, hey, you either you didn't pay your taxes or, ma'am, you didn't do your jury duty. Hey, by the way, I just learned, the one thing I love about this program is I'm always learning. I found out yesterday that if you're over 70, you don't have to do jury duty. I never knew that. So, folks, if you're over 70 and you're in the room here and you get that jury duty call from us at the Middlesex Sheriff's Office, it's a scam. And I have the audio from the scammer in a little bit. I'll play it for you. So they may say to you, you didn't pay your IRS, or as I mentioned, you have the refund, or you failed to show for your jury duty. The other thing that was big during COVID was during COVID-19, we all got checks and support from the government. Well, scammers right now continue to put these out there, and people are signing up for it. And again, the scammers, they seem really nice because, hey, we're going to help you with this. We can do an automatic deposit into your banking account. Or they're going to say, hey, we just need to confirm your Social Security number before we send you out the check. And again, this is how they mine that information and get it from you. Celebrity imposter scams. This is getting bigger and bigger because they say the celebrities are, the scammers are saying they're pushing diet products. You know, we're all trying to watch our waistlines, especially during the holidays. Home and car warranties, political outreach. Actually, the campaigns are over from the presidential race. Thank God, no more commercials. Home heaters, cookware. And it's big names when you think about it, like Oprah Winfrey, Tom Hanks, Taylor Swift, Elon Musk. There was also one during the presidential election, and I'm not getting into politics, but it was in regard to Donald Trump, and they were selling coins that they said, hey, these coins, you can buy them, and then you can use them in stores. Of course, you could not use them in stores, but people were buying them and they fell for the scam. And the other thing I just want to share too, on the bottom, when I talk about the home and car warranties, we're seeing more and more on these on TV, just so you're aware. So just so you're aware, a lot of those companies on TV, they're legitimate, but what they promise or what they say in the commercials, they're not necessarily providing as far as home warranties, car warranties. So just be aware of that and maybe check the Better Business Bureau if you're looking at something like that for yourself. So to recap on phone scams, especially in regard to the IRS, they're never going to call you about the taxes that you owe without first mailing you something. And then after that, you have a chance to appeal. You don't have to make that payment immediately over the phone. And then most of all, they're not sending Marlborough Police. They're not sending Middlesex Sheriff's Office to arrest you at that point. So this is an actual scam telephone call message that we got. The officer on this, his name is Sergeant Cooper. Sergeant Cooper, we do have one that works for the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. This is very similar to another scam recently where people were doing the same thing. The way we find out about it is people call us up and they say, hey, just letting you know, somebody's using the Middlesex Sheriff's Office and they're running scams on it right now. Or some people will call us up and say, hey, I just got a phone call. I want to make sure and check in. Did I miss jury duty or something? So I'll play that for you.
This is Sergeant Donald Cooper with the Middlesex County Sheriff's Department. So this is a time-sensitive matter pertaining to some of your missed court dates. So it is imperative that you get back to me immediately upon the receipt of this message. To reach my office is 781-819-5610.
So in this is what the scammers do. They try to build pressure. They try to make it urgent because I missed the court date. Now you start to get anxious. Hey, what did I do wrong? And the other thing they do is they leave a phone number. So here's the key to protect yourself. If you're ever in question, don't call that phone number. Look up the real Middlesex Sheriff's Office phone number on the internet. Call them, and that's how we find out about these, some things like this, and call them direct. And that can apply to a credit card. So if you get a phone call from your credit, and they say they're from your credit card company or from your bank, don't call back the number they gave you. Call back the number on their website. Or pull out your old bill. Pull out your old bank statement. The phone numbers are right there. That's the resource to use in those types of situations. So this one here, this is our Social Security scam. This one's really loud. Let me turn it down a little bit first. Hold on. So this is one in Social Security. And again, this is another message that was left.
This call is from the Social Security Administration. The reason of this call is to notify you about the information to suspend your Social Security number. This is final attempt to reach you. To resolve this issue immediately, please press 1 to speak with a federal agent.
Please press 1 to speak with the federal agent. And they're going to suspend your Social Security. And understandably, for a lot of senior citizens, this is a big, they need that Social Security. So they make that call, or they press the 1. And then just so you know, if you press the 1 and you get the live person, they have this all scripted out. And they have several scripts that are there. It's the same for this, the same for the grandparent scam we're going to talk about in a moment. So they have scripts to make it sound like your account information has been compromised or whatever it may be. They are really good at it, including, and actually I'll get more into it in the grandparent scam, how they work in teams. So now getting into the grandparent scam. First of all, I'm blessed with 2 grandchildren. Mine are really, really young. But let's face it, we would do anything to help out our grandkids, right? When you think about it. So they're counting on that emotional response from you. Hey, your grandson or granddaughter's been arrested, or hey, your grandson, your granddaughter's been in an accident. They're counting on that emotional support. So what I do in my family, just so you're aware, is my kids, and then ultimately my grandkids when they get older, we have a code word. And we've had it since my kids, my oldest now is 28. since she was in school. So the code word, we would set it up so that, let's say it's a Friday night and they're out and about in town or whatever. And if they call us up or we get a text with that code word in it back then, it meant that, hey, they were in an uncomfortable situation, and then at that point we would contact them. Also, so if you get a call from a saying, hey, your grandson's been arrested, your grandson's been in an accident, here, we're going to give you to the grandson. Again, they're counting on that. Our hearing's not good nowadays. And there's always background noise and everything else. You can simply say, and in my case it would be, hey, Jessica, what's the code word? And then they're not going to have it. So you're going to know right away. So that's a way to help you with this, a suggestion for you and your family members. So the other thing, too, is scammers, just like professional marketers, they do their research. So they actually mine information off of the web, including social media, by the way. And then they purchase databases from other criminals. So it's amazing how this all works and how it's a big web. Now, this is the interesting part, this is going to get real challenging, even for people like myself that do this all the time. Now they're taking advantage of technology, and they're taking advantage of artificial intelligence, which is why when you get that phone call and they say, what's your first name, sir? Norman. And they say, is this Norman? You should not say yes. At that point, you stick to that line, Norman. Who are you? Yeah, who are you? And then if it's not who you think it is, click. Folks, do not engage them. We have some people that like to engage them and have fun with the scammers. You do not know who you're dealing with. So our suggestion to you is to not engage the scammers. Just simply hang up. You can then put a call block on your phone to block that number for future. And then you can always report that also to the police department if you want to. So they're using technology, they're using artificial intelligence. And here's the other thing. They're also what we call spoofing telephone numbers. So all those scams that like the one I just played for you with the Middlesex Sheriff's Office, when people got the phone call, it came in and they look at their phone, it says Middlesex Sheriff's Office. So if I see Middlesex Sheriff's Office, I would definitely answer it. And then it turns out that it's really not. So they copy telephone numbers to make it look like it's legit. And folks, understand this. Again, use the technology. They're making hundreds of phone calls at a time because it's all computer-based. And they're just waiting for somebody to answer. So out of a couple hundred calls, one person answers, and they get 2 a day. They're making $250,000 tax-free every year on these little small hits. So on the grandparent scam, they always make it sound like it's urgent. And again, these are the key red flags. If they ask you to pay by Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, wire money, or the courier's going to come, then you know that it's a scam. Sadly, there was a scam just recently in the southern part of the country. It was the grandparent scam. The gentleman all of a sudden picked up, hey, I'm being scammed here. When the courier came, he thought the courier was the scammer, and he went out and he shot the courier. And it was simply, the courier was also being scammed to pick up the money. So now that gentleman, you have 2 tragedies. You have that family of the individual that got shot, and now you have an individual that got scammed, and in his emotional moment, he went out and shot somebody. He's going to go to jail. So again, this is where they prey on those emotions like that. The other thing is, hey, don't tell mom and dad. And we already talked about, who do we trust? We trust our family members. So we want to follow up with mom and dad in these situations. And then again, where I mentioned how they're really scripted here, they'll make it so that, let's say they're in the hospital. And this one actually happened in the last few months. So somebody called up, first from the police department, and said, hey, Grandma, just so you know, unfortunately, I hit a pregnant woman today crossing the street. I need some bail money. She paid the bail money. Then 2 hours later, she gets another call. Oh, Grandma, the pregnant woman lost her baby. Now I got to pay medical bills. Can you send more money? So you see how they build on this. They take advantage of the emotion, and they are the most, hideous of people to take advantage of these types of situations. So just be aware of that. And it could also be a situation that, hey, I have the police officer here, and then the police officer says, oh, here, I'm going to give you to the police sergeant. And they make it, again, it's all scripted so that you fall into this trap that they've set up. So this is why it's important that we always say to people, you have time on these things. Slow it down. Make the call to the family members. Or if it's something that comes in, even if it's a phone call, you can say, you know what, I'll call you back tomorrow, and you can bring it down here to the senior center or your bank or whatever it may be. There's time on all of these things. Folks, I'm not coming to arrest you, so count on that. Fake website scams. This is really big. I mentioned the one about the NFL earlier that even I didn't pick up on right away. Something to look for, and you can see in the lower right here, that little padlock right there. So that means that a website is secure. So you can look for things like that. But then also, you want to make sure that you're on the legitimate website. So just as you're going through this holiday season, if you're an online shopper, just make sure you're on the site that you really want to be on. And then here's the other thing that's going to happen, too, in the next few weeks. We all have a good deal, right? But anything that's dramatically reduced in price, folks, Sheriff says this all the time, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? So just be aware of these deals as they come in during the holiday season. This just came up recently because a lot of people are traveling, especially for Thanksgiving week. The TSA pre-check. They went to the website. Somebody Googled TSA. But a lot of times, including like findmassmoney.gov, by the way, it was similar to the TSA one. If you Google Find Mass Money, above the real website many times, there's going to be 2 or 3 commercial companies that they're legitimate, but they'll help you get your money, but you got to pay them a fee. Whereas with the state, you can just go to findmassmoney.gov and you can get your money back that you may have outstanding. With the TSA, of course, they were on the wrong website. Then they start asking for information. Hey, we need to confirm your Social Security number for the flight. And now you see, again, this is how they get that information. So phishing scams. This is going to be big in the next few weeks during the holiday season. You know, I mention all the time, every year I go to upstate New York, I go salmon fishing. It's kind of similar here. They're casting a wide net here, the scammers are, to get you to make a bad decision. And it's going to be big, especially this time of year, first with Amazon, for those of you doing online shopping. It's not uncommon, I'll show you the slide in a second, where it says, we need more information or we need more payment or whatever it may be. So we'll show you that in a second. The other one, you might get an email or a text from UPS, United States Postal Service, FedEx, saying that we need to deliver your package, we need more information. The CVS one, this is interesting. We see this a lot with gift cards where online, they'll say, hey, you can get a $50 gift card. Who doesn't want to get a $50 gift card to CVS, right? But they want you to click on this because we need to get some more information from you. And that's how they start to get the information. On the right here, this is an email that I actually received in regard to Norton. And down here, it says renew the subscription because my antivirus on my computer is expired. So of course, when you click on that, one of a couple things is going to happen. A, you might get a virus or malware on your computer. Or B, what's probably going to happen is, at that point, they're going to say, all right, we need to refresh all your information. Can you give me all your information? And ultimately, you're going to have to pay, right? So you're going to have to put in some type of payment information in there. And now they have access to that. So this is what I talked about with Amazon. It's kind of tough to see up here, but that's, if you actually hover over the email address, many times you can see the email address, the real email address from the sender. That, I can tell you right now, that is not an Amazon email address up there. So you want to be aware of that. And again, even Amazon, it's a little tough to see, but down here, it says verify your information now. And again, that's where they want you to click on that link, and now they're going to start getting information off of you. So this list right here, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Just in the last 6 months, these are all the fake scams I've got either emailed to me or texted to me or in the mail. One I want to point out to you folks, down here in the lower left, is AARP. So we all know AARP is a great organization, great support services for people over the age of 60. One of the first things that I did when I turned 60 was to join AARP. But there's also people, just so you're aware, that are putting out fake websites, fake texts, fake emails, fake mailings that really are not AARP. So please make sure, this and Medicare, because right now we're in open enrollment. There's a lot of scams out there in regard to that too. Just be aware, make sure you're dealing with the actual organization. Technology scams. This may come as a pop-up on your screen of your computer. It could be a text, it could be an email. This is one right here that with the Netflix. I will share with you my daughter Hannah, she's 24 years old. If she got this email that said, hey, your subscription is expired, she'd be going click, 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 click. So no, Hannah, again, slow things down. You want to make sure that, again, because once you go to do that, eventually you're going to have to put in payment information, and this is how they get your money. QR codes. This is becoming, actually I see some eyebrows going up. This is actually becoming bigger and bigger. I can remember during this last Super Bowl, it was the first major QR code commercial I saw, but it became bigger during COVID with the individual, because when you went to a restaurant, you couldn't hold the menu, they gave you the QR code. I will share with you in some communities, like in Cambridge, Mass, you can, at the parking meters, you can scan the QR code and you can pay for your parking spot. But what the scammers did was they took their sticker with their QR code and they went to all the meters and they put the sticker on over it. So when people thought they were paying their bill to the city of Cambridge for their parking, it was going to the scammers. And now the scammers have that information. So again, just be aware because, and I'll actually, just so you're aware how popular this is, now, I'm the community affairs guy. I am not the guy that develops our media or whatever. And Mike will make sure you get one of these. But even my business card has a QR code on the back so that you can get a hold of the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. So that's how big these are coming nowadays. And by the way, at the end of the presentation, you're welcome to grab my business card and you're welcome to contact us with any follow-up questions. The romance and trust scams. These are very sophisticated. A lot of the scams, they want quick hits. This one, they know it's going to take a little time because they know they're going to get big money. So a couple years ago in Brookline, there was a woman, she had cancer. She had been through a divorce. She was having a really tough time. She was on one of the social media sites for dating app. And then what they do is they lure you off of that site, because that's the safe communication, to doing phone calls, doing emails, texts, that type of thing. They convinced her to put her money into cryptocurrency and sell a house. She lost $900,000. And when it comes to the cryptocurrency, you're not going to, odds of getting that back are like incredibly small. So what happens is with the romance scams, and it was interesting actually in Reading, I was up there a few months ago, there was a woman, she mentioned to us that she was on the Facebook dating app. And she said, I couldn't believe how many messages I got from men all over the world. And they all want me to get off the Facebook dating. And like, she was like, can you help me get this off of my phone? She didn't know how to get it off. So we helped her with that. So what they do here in this particular situation is they tell you how awesome you are, how much they love you. They're always overseas. They're helping local charities in Africa. They're serving in the military. They're a priest, whatever, serving in a mission. Hey, can you help us with a donation? And then they say, hey, by the way, I'm coming back soon and we can meet up. Folks, there's always an excuse why they're not coming back because something comes up. And they just have you keep sending money. People are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars to the scams. So please just be aware of these. Contractor scams. Recently at the Middlesex Sheriff's Office, I was talking to one of my colleagues. He had gotten, he helps his mom with her finances. So he's going through the checks, and he saw a couple of checks to a contracting company. And he said, Mom, what's this? The first one was $125, and it was like just over $500. And he says, Mom, what's this? And she says, oh, it's the contractor coming to help with the gutter and the roof. Mom, we just put on a new roof and gutters 5 years ago. What are you talking about? Oh, no, and the guy's coming tomorrow. You can meet him. You bet that office, he was there that day to meet them. And sure enough, that person had been scamming his mother. They didn't need roof work done. So again, just be aware of this. And this is the one where I talked about in Belmont, where somebody came up, they knocked on the door, the woman answered. They said, we're from Belmont Water Department. We need to check the meters and the pipes downstairs. And she let them in. Fortunately, she was okay and everything. But again, something really bad could have happened when you think about that. So if there's certain work being done to your house or something, make sure you're the person initiating that call. Don't wait for people to come to your house, whether it be, hey, we're in the area, we're doing some paving. You know, if you give us a quick $500 in cash, we can help you with your paving. Online pharmacies. This is really important because only 3% of all the online pharmacies that are on the internet are recognized by the federal standards of the United States of America. So when you think about it, only 3%. Now, I can remember when I was a kid, my Nana, she had a heart issue, and I remember the prescriptions, and she always talked about how expensive the prescriptions were. We understand that, folks. But make sure that if you're using somebody online, make sure they're a legitimate company. If they're saying, hey, we can get you your drugs without a prescription, folks, that's a scam. Or if they don't have an address on their website, it's a scam. And understand, no matter what, in the end, you're gonna, even if they say it's a dramatically reduced price, you're still gonna have to put in payment information, and that's how they're gonna get the money. And understand, even if it's a credit card, yes, eventually you're gonna get that money back, but then the credit card companies, they just write it off because it's almost impossible to catch these people, and it's very rare that we do catch somebody because most of them are overseas, and they're working out of major phone banks and computer labs. Disaster and charity scams. And this is where Sheriff Katujian again talks about this generation is a caring generation. You've always been charitable. And a lot of people want to help, including like the hurricanes this year. Very understandable. So our suggestion to you is make sure that the charity that they're helping, make sure it's a legitimate charity. I was up yesterday, we were at one of our presentations, and somebody mentioned how they want to help out animals. They see those commercials on TV, but there was another place locally. And I didn't recognize the charity. But then I mentioned, hey, maybe you should use the MSPCA because it's a more recognized charity that helps out animals. So again, look for those types of charities, like especially this year, like we all see the Salvation Army because they're out doing their Red Kettle Drive right now. The other thing, just so you're aware too, sometimes there'll be a phone call that may come to me and they'll say, and it'll come up, Mass State Police. So I'll answer that one. And then it's somebody in there asking for money to make donations to the Mass State Police. I think they do a great job and all that, but I have several charities that I'm dedicated to every year where our family's chosen to share those charitable funds. So I'm polite, I'll say, thank you for your work, appreciate it, but I'm going to pass on that opportunity. And they say, well, what about $10? And I say, no, I'm really going to pass, thank you. And then if they keep pushing, then I hang up. Because again, I've used my manners, I was polite. But so just, be aware of those types of charities and you decide who do you want to give your charitable funds to. Venmo and PayPal. Does anybody in here have Venmo or PayPal use it? We had several people here, so I see a couple of hands, okay. So this is becoming more and more popular with even the older generation. And it's interesting because, again, the scammers will copy or spoof an account. It actually happened to one of our employees in the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. One of our employees, she was in our Woburn office, sitting in a cube, and her colleague in the next cube over says, hey, I just got a text from you saying that you need $100 because you have a flat tire. And the first one was like, what are you talking about? And somebody had copied her account. So just make sure you have all your, those of you that use it, make sure you have those privacy settings set on those accounts. Rental and marketplace scams. I was talking to somebody recently, another dad, he needed a lawnmower. So he got a lawnmower, went to Facebook Marketplace, got it all hooked up, and sent a deposit. Then he's in the middle of a soccer game. He's got kids going in 3 different directions. He gets another text saying, hey, we didn't receive your deposit. He says, oh, I thought I sent it. The guy says, we didn't get it. Oh, I'll send you another one. So he sends another deposit. It ended up being a scam. He lost both deposits. And again, the scammers are counting on us because we're all busy. Our lives are chaotic at times because we're going in different, especially during the holiday season. So that's why they're counting on us, and that's why we need to slow things down during this time of year. The other thing, too, a lot of grandparents are really kind. During the summer, they might rent a vacation home on the Cape. In the winter, they might rent a ski lodge up in New Hampshire. if you're doing something like that, make sure that the picture that they're showing, make sure it's a reputable website or organized like Airbnb or something, because what happens is they'll take and they'll copy that picture, and then they'll say this is from rent, and then it ends up, it's not even a legitimate rental. So just be aware of that. So, as far as reporting scams, you have a lot of different options. Obviously, we have Marlborough Police Department. We have the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. Sadly, sometimes in really big scams, I have to send people to FBI in Boston. So there's some phone numbers up here that are available to you. But remember, you also have all those trusted individuals, the people here at the Senior Council on Aging, the Marlborough Police Department, all of that. So this concludes my presentation. I could take some questions, but first, on behalf of Sheriff Katujian, we just want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. We want you and your families and wish you all a happy and safe holiday. The other thing too is at the end of this, I will stay and I can take questions and I can give out my business cards. We also want to thank Marlborough Cable Access and Mike for coming out today to share this information. Always great to have those partnerships also. Sheriff Katujian knows a lot of people can't make it to these things. So having cable access here is a great, great asset. So thank you, Mike, and all your team over at Cable Access. Does anybody have any questions? I can take a couple of questions before we wrap up. None? Yes. Yeah.
If I don't work none of them, I let Michigan get
Yes.
what no land.
Yes. Yes. And so she had mentioned that, you know, that when that phone call comes in, if she doesn't recognize it, she lets it go to the machine. And that is so important, folks. And it's just that actually, at one of the presentations we did yesterday, somebody mentioned to me that she even counts the rings. And she found that if it only rang 3 times, it was definitely a marketer or a scammer. And I don't want to talk to either one of them. So really interested in how she had picked up on that. And again, I will emphasize, don't engage them, folks. Some people like to engage them and, you know, don't do that. Just hang up and then block the number. And then you're off to the races at that point. You'll be far more protected. Yes, sir.
I always listen to the mates call.
Uh-huh.
Hear the background noise.
Yeah.
That's what it tells me. That's a phone bag.
Yes.
It's going to be a top.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and that's interesting too. Again, even with the scammers, they count on that background noise to kind of throw us off at times. So he had mentioned how when the phone bank calls, you can hear in the background all the other callers, that type of thing. And again, it's either a marketer, and they could be legitimate, but you know what? I got other things to be doing.
That's got the grandparent scam.
Yeah.
I called. I said, who's the grandson? This is Tommy. Nothing.
Yeah.
The grandson.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
Yeah. So, and they had mentioned how the grandparents scam, they call up and, you know, it's the soft voice they were calling and that type of thing. So, beware. Hey, in the past too, I mentioned my name's Ken Doucette. I've gotten phone calls and I look at my phone and say, it's from Ken Doucette. So again, it's interesting. That's happened several times. So it's interesting how sometimes they can even copy your own phone number. Yes, sir.
They also call you on local telephone.
Yes. Yes. Right. Yep.
When we think of somebody like, oh,
Right. Yep.
in talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So he mentioned how the phone call, when it comes in, it's a local exchange. So for me and Walter, it'd be like 617 or 508 up around where I work in Chelmsford. So it's, it really is, it's interesting how they could do that. And even that call the other day when I saw the phone, it said Rockland Trust. That's my bank. So I'll answer it. But at this point, I'm used to picking it up and realizing, hey, it's not them, and you hang right up. So,
Got calls from UMass Memorial. Okay, that's not possible. I pick it up. Listen, them.
yep. Yeah, he mentioned how from his hospital that he goes to, that it'll say the hospital, and when you pick it up, it's not them. So immediately, just do that click. You folks don't have to use your manners in that situation, because they're not using theirs, that's for sure. So, all right, folks, I'll hang up. Oh, I'll take one more. Yes.
Got scammed maybe 5 years ago.
No, I'm sorry.
Credit card, they asked for money, and I had to go down to the price choppers and get a gift card.
Yes.
Well, luckily the guy went to the same register, and the guy said, "Look, you've been here 3 times. I'm not gonna sell you this.
Yeah.
And he says, he's a Marlborough police station.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and police said, well, how much did you lose? I said, 300.
Mm-hmm.
He says, well, you're one of the lucky ones.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Since then, my kids have been very cautious with what I get.
Mm-hmm.
And they put on my phone, if my phone does not recognize the number,
Mm-hmm.
it will come up as a silent call.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's how, I don't know how they did it.
Yeah. So there might be some app. I know there's some apps out there. There's none that we recommend or whatever. People have to make those own decisions for themselves. But there are a number of apps. I know, even like I have an Apple phone, and it comes up either it'll say spam or scam risk sometimes. So even AT&T, like I have AT&T, they're starting to pick up on these things too. And she had mentioned how several years ago, somebody tried to take advantage with a gift card scam where they had to pay in gift cards. So yeah, you want to be, and I tell people all the time too, make sure you're checking your accounts all the time. Even on my credit cards, when I make a payment, I get a text saying, hey, your card's been used for a purchase. And actually, 3 or 4 years ago, I got a text on my debit card, because I never use my debit card, that said I made a purchase in Home Depot in Framingham. I live in Waltham. We have a Home Depot there. So I called my wife to check, and I said, honey, were you at Home Depot? First of all, she would never be at Home Depot. She said, no, it wasn't me. So I immediately know somehow my card had been compromised. So then at that point, we made the call to the bank and then the police department. So you did the right thing there. Yes. Yes, sir.
Here, forward report that do not answer.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Even if they don't leave a message, you don't recognize the number. You can. There's a mechanism. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a mechanism on your cell phone that you can put in this call rejected, which will not allow that number to come up on your phone.
Yes, yep. So he mentioned how the call comes in and you don't want to get that call again. So on mine, I mentioned earlier, you can block it. Yes. So you can take that number and you can block it moving forward. So we suggest that, but then understand they're using hundreds of phone numbers from their phone banks because they're using offshore phone banks is what it is. So I'm gonna hang out for a little bit longer. I'll have my cards up here. Again, happy Thanksgiving. And then I'll take any other questions you have privately up here. Thank you, folks. Take care.